Friends, come months of June through to September, December, and so on, our country sees floods in almost all the states, either far too little or far too high. Water flows under the bridges, sometimes over them, inundating and washing them away. Both extremes have been causes of worry for us. One results in flooding, the other results in drought. Friends, in this Saturday Wisdom episode, let's explore the phenomena of floods and what we need to do. Every year, NASA and our own meteorological departments provide estimates of monsoon rainfall every month so that the nation can prepare better. Indian monsoon is the most prominent of the world's monsoon systems. It blows from the northeast during the cooler months and reverses the direction to blow from the southwest during the warmest months of the year, bringing in its wake landslides, inundations, and lands washed away, and a lot of misery to boot. A typical Indian response is often steeped in religious beliefs. And who cares? It will happen if it is destined to happen kind of attitudes. The tragedy then happens almost as a matter of fact. Can the future be secured against such disasters? Are we paying for the greed of employment? Our national disaster recovery systems are extremely good and they take instant actions, providing relief for the people. But then, we need to do something about mitigating the effects even before they arrive. Now, what causes floods is important to answer if mitigation methods are to be effective. Heavy and long periods of rainfall, tsunamis, snow melt, steep slopes, impermeable rock structures that doesn't allow water to seep through, very wet, saturated soils where the water collects above, or compacted dry soil, again it doesn't allow water to seep in. They all cause floods. These are the missing beats that we must hear. Contrary to what we believe, most of these are not natural causes. Inadequate capacity within the river banks to contain high flow of water, riverbank erosion, silting of riverbeds, landslides leading to obstruction of flow and change in the river course, retardation of flows due to tidal and backwater effects, poor natural drainage in the flood-prone areas, cyclones, and associated heavy rainstorms, cloudbursts, dam breaks, they all cause flooding. And one of that keeps happening every single year. Are there only bad effects of floods? Are there any good effects of floods as well? Maybe there are some. They are the benefits of flooding, and that's a very interesting question. For farmers and those in the agriculture sector, it helps in the long run by providing nutrients to the soil that were lacking in them. Flooding deposits onto the flood plain when the flood recedes, like the fine silt or alluvium, actually make the soil more fertile and increases the agricultural production. So these are things that will continue to happen, some of them natural, some of them unnatural. Floods are classified as natural disasters and classified in terms of zones of flooding. And we have some zones of flooding in the country. Brahmaputra, Ganga, Northwest Central and Deccan river basins and their topography needs different methods of mitigation because they are all designed differently by nature. The annual precipitation in India, including the snowfall, is estimated to be about 4,000 billion cubic meter. A seasonal rainfall in monsoon can be of the order of 3,000 BCM. The Central Water Commission under the Ministry of Water Resources reports that the annual average area affected by floods is in the excess of 8,000 million hectares. Massive. The National Flood Commission has reported that the total flood prone area of India was more than 40 million hectares. Based on data collected by the Center on Actual Areas Flooded since 1950, among the 10 most vulnerable states are Punjab, followed by West Bengal, Bihar, UP, Andhra Pradesh, Haryana, Kerala, Assam, Gujarat, and Odisha, in that order. Bihar saw 500 deaths due to floods a couple of years back. NDMA, which was investigating, found that primitive embankment managements and reluctance of the villagers to move out to be evacuated, even when the flood waters crossed the danger level, were the causes. People also need to understand and cooperate. Torrential rains, which caused floods in southern India the last few years, has led to economic losses to the tune of 20,000 crore rupees. Aon, a global professional service firm headquartered in London that provides risk, retirement and health consulting, revealed total economic losses in India were estimated to reach as high as 200 billion rupees. And India's Global Insurance Corporation claims possibly reaching 20 billion rupees. 200 billion rupees as loss, and 20 billion rupees in terms of paying payouts, in terms of insurances. The Assam floods 5 years back had affected over 9,000 people, with nearly 29 villages being inundated. The 100-year rainfall event in Chennai exposed the inherent weaknesses of the one-dimensional nature of the economic pursuit and highlighted the need for serious introspection. Produce without a care for the environment and the effect that our methods have on it. Implementation of mitigation measures and the redesigning of the urban landscapes is called for. A leading newspaper reported that every year around 3 crore people are affected by floods. The average annual loss because of floods, heavy rains works out to be about 20,000 crore rupees. Many thousand lives are lost. Risk assessment can play a major role in awareness and insurance in mitigating the financial and other hardships. So a risk analysis must be done. India's newest state capital, Amravati, or which was proposed as the newest state capital, was to be built on 217 square kilometers on the southern banks of river Krishna flood plains. They flood, often, and on an average at least twice every year. And it suffers also from droughts and consequent water shortage. Now, they were designed for 51% of green spaces and 10% of water bodies to mitigate the effects. But still, the riverfront urban settlement should come as a concern. Was there a price that future generations may have paid had this project taken off? Having said that, the new capital city also must come on, but with mechanisms that will control floods. Flood mitigation involves management and control of flood water movement, such as redirecting flood runoffs through the use of flood walls and floodgates rather than trying to prevent floods altogether. It also involves the management of people through measures such as evacuation and dry or wet proofing the properties which are prone to flooding. The most effective way of reducing the risk to people and property is through flood risk maps. Create flood risk maps and proactively evaluate in the higher reaches. Prevention is better than cure. Now, some methods must be followed, such as better flood warning systems, modifying homes and businesses to help withstand floods, constructing buildings above flood levels, tackling climate change, increasing, spending of flood defenses, protecting wetlands, planting trees strategically, restoring rivers to their natural courses, and so on. Some age-old wisdom would also help with imperatives like reforestation and construction of reservoirs and channels diverting the flood water. An important question in flood management is, when should the floodgates be opened? Since most of these devices operate they are automatically controlled, depending on the water surface elevation. They are also known as the crust gates. And we may use bypass systems to let the flood water bypass sometimes and to the main river or a canal channel that we create, and so on. All these are important mitigation methods. The flow of water must be unhindered, smoothly flowing from the higher plains into the lower ones. And the timing is extremely important and must be attempted only when the evacuation of people is complete. And if the gates are opened as a matter of exigency, then we need to be more careful. At a time when the government thrust is on creating smart cities, where water supply or the sewage systems are controlled, amongst controlling many other utilities, understanding when water is flowing, or if there are massive leaks, or if a flood is building, are all important to know. Friends, can we afford the periodic floods that wash away everything of ours, even the basic utilities? Our priorities and mitigation efforts must be equally smart. In short, we must heed the missing beats, which I spoke of earlier. With that, let me end this Saturday Wisdom with a promise to return next Saturday with yet another episode. Until then, namaskar, dhanyawad, and thank you.